Hello everybody, it's Devin, and welcome to another album review. In this video I'm going to be talking about yet another new Weezer album, the Black Album. This is the 13th studio album and 6th color-coded self-titled album from alt-rock mainstays Weezer. I briefly touched on the band's legendarily inconsistent output in my review of the Teal album a month ago. But just as a recap, they debuted in 1994 with an exemplary alt-rock album in their self-titled Blue album. It was an album filled with tons of nerdy charm, massive hooks, and a slew of really popular singles, The Sweater Song, Buddy Holly, and of course Say It Ain't So. They followed this album up in 1996 with Pinkerton, an album that was noticeably much darker and much more emotionally disturbed than Blue was, and initially this change in tone didn't sit all that well with fans and critics, as the reception towards this album was pretty negative upon release. But as the years have passed since Pinkerton's release, people have gradually come to really appreciate the album for its strong songwriting, striking vulnerability, and for being a very influential album in the emo genre. Today it's often held in similar regard to the Blue album. I mean, you know these albums, chances are you love these albums. Yeah. After dropping these two, bona fide 90s classics, Weezer have essentially been alternating between dropping really good albums and really bad albums for the better part of the last 20 years now. Just 2 months ago, they released their 12th record, the Teal album, which was a very lighthearted and kind of goofy collection of cover songs that I found to be pretty enjoyable. The Teal album was a project that I took pretty lightly, as it seemed to be a very spontaneous, kind of silly project for the group, but now we have the Black Album, which I guess is the real Weezer album of 2019, if you will. And how does the Black Album hold up? In my opinion, it's pretty mixed, but at least when you compare it to the horrible EDM crossovers on the band's last major full-length, 2017's Limp Pacific Daydream, the Black Album does have stronger tunes, some slightly better production, and some surprising moments of haphazard creativity that really threw me for a loop. The album's first leg is comprised of its lead singles, most of which I actually found to be pretty enjoyable. First is Can't Knock the Hustle, the first single from this album, with its crisp hip-hop beat, pseudo-rapped verses, and refrain sung in Spanish. It almost reminds me of something Beck would have done in the 90s, but in a nice way. The lyrics of this track are pretty much Weezer addressing their haters in a very upfront manner, but I found the lyrics to be more entertaining and tongue-in-cheek than overly bitter. So yeah, I thought it was a nice tune. The next song, Zombie Bastards, continues Weezer's digs at their haters, albeit in a much more subtle way this time around that I think is pretty sweet. When I first heard this song, I wasn't initially sold on how super clean the production of the track was, but after repeated listens, I've kind of come around to it. I mean, say what you will about Rivers Cuomo, but the dude can write a damn catchy song. The next song is called High as a Kite, and it's one of my favorites on here. In typical Weezer fashion, the chorus is absolutely huge, and they actually even bring in a string section for this song. But for as catchy High as a Kite is, it's definitely one of the darkest songs Weezer has written in some time. I mean, sure, the drug-addled numbness that Rivers laments about on this track isn't totally new for Weezer, but between the great chorus, the fantastic heavy bridge, and a really nice guitar outro, High as a Kite is a really great track in my opinion. However, the band does start to slip up on the next few tracks, particularly on the very next song, the track Living in LA, probably my least favorite on the entire album. Living in LA is basically a combination of everything I hoped not to hear on this new Weezer album, just really saccharine, squeaky clean top 40 production, millennial pop cliches, and a refrain that sounds like it belongs in a Maroon 5 song. I never thought I'd say this, but I'd be more comfortable if Adam Levine was singing this Weezer song. The next track, Piece of Cake, isn't much better, as it is easily one of the least eventful songs here. Just kind of plods along with a really serviceable piano rock beat and some really redundant guitar lines. Also, that simile on the chorus, Rivers, you can do so much better, man. You can do so much better than this. Next we get a pair of very sleek, decently catchy pop rock tunes in I'm Just Being Honest and Too Many Thoughts in My Head, And while I think these songs have some decent melodies, they are both let down by overly glossy production. The instrumentation on these tracks just sounds super thin. They lack any of the body or the full sound that I would want on a Weezer song, which is a shame because, like I said, they aren't half-bad tracks. It's just frustrating because only 3 years ago with the White Album, Weezer showed that they still know how to nail their classic sound when they want to. They just don't seem to want to here, and I think it's kind of for the worse. Anyway, the band saves the 3 strangest, most head-scratching songs for last. First is The Prince Who Wanted Everything, which is a very cheesy, strange, but at the same time kind of nice tribute to Prince. I don't think the song's groove is particularly terrible, even if the lyrics are very cheesy, and it's another moment where the production is way too clean. Yeah, it's really not very good. Then we have the song Byzantine, which is a very flat attempt at making a kind of island-tinged pop song, which is another sound I did not expect to hear from Weezer, and now having heard it, I wish I didn't. While I do not care for either of those tracks, the closer on this album is really something else, the track California Snow. I know I've been pretty consistently trashing Weezer's attempts at making contemporary pop music throughout this video, but with this track in particular, I find that there's something so gutsy about how all over the place and strange it is for this band. Like, there are so many sounds I would never expect to be in a Weezer song in this Weezer song, that I find it to be kind of admirable. The breakneck pace of these really scratchy synthesizers just going the descending trap drums that remind me most of Travis Scott's Sicko Mode. I'm being serious here. And then this chorus that just comes in and absolutely dwarfs everything else on this album because it's just so huge. It all adds up to a song that is, at the very least, impossible to look away from. Even though I've listened to it tons of times in preparation for this video, I'm still unsure whether that is a good thing or a bad thing. However, at the very least, I can say California Snow is the most interesting and the most captivating song on an album that otherwise feels pretty meandering and pretty sterile. So while I don't think the Black Album is terrible, I don't think it's like the worst thing Weezer has ever put out. In fact, I think it's a few notches above Pacific Daydream. I still don't think it's very good. Even the best songs on here are tainted by the really dry, bland production and really cringeworthy lyrics. So for a score, I'm pretty much feeling like a 5 out of 10, just right in the middle there. I don't hate it, but I cannot say I will be returning to it. And yeah, that's gonna do it for all my thoughts on this new Weezer album, the Black Album. And thank you so much for watching, guys. I really appreciate all of the support my videos have been getting. Make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and yeah, I hope to see you guys in the next video. Bye!